Okay, so this will be the explanation for the tower defense example. So first, let's look at the scene. We have this tower with the mage on top, shoots fireballs at enemies. That are spawned from the portal. So we have the tower, we have the portal, and in case the enemies survive, they get destroyed when they touch the chest there. Also, the enemy have that slider, the HP slider on them. And then the tower has three modes. It can either shoot at the closest enemy, can shoot at the furthest enemy, or at the lowest HP. And by clicking on the tower, you can see that UI there. So let's look at the code for this. Now, let's start with the tower script. So I have a bunch of variables here. I'll quickly go through this. So we have the prefab of the projectile. We have a position where we spawn the projectile. In this case, it's from the wand uh, of the mage here. We have an attack speed, we have an attack counter. We use this to spawn the projectile after a short amount of time. We have the damage of the projectile, we have the attack type. So with this, we decide if we target the closest enemy, the furthest, so the lowest HP. We have a maximum attack type, so the limit of this attack type integer. We have the range of the tower here. And then we have the enemy physics layer here because we use the overlap circle method and we only want to target the enemies when we do that. So we have the enemy layer here. We have the target transform. So this will represent the target of the projectile. We have a canvas group from the UI there where you can change the attack type, the text that displays which attack type is currently used. We have a variable for the coding because we actually, when we click the tower, we fade that UI in and out when we click on that, when we can click on the tower. We have a bool here that lets us know if when we click the tower, we fade in or we fade out. And then we have the fade duration for that fade effect. So in the start function happens at the beginning of the script. We have some default value. So the attack counter is 0 and then the fade in is true because when we first click the tower, we want to fade in that UI. Now in update every frame, we count the time in seconds in that attack counters. And then when the attack counter is bigger than the attack speed, meaning if it's time to shoot projectiles, we reset that counter and then we select the target depending on the attack type. So if it's 0, we choose the closest. If it's 1, we choose the furthest. And if it's 2, we choose the enemy with the lowest HP. So after we have a target, we have to spawn the projectile. And then the projectile also has a script here because every frame we follow that target, and also we rotate the projectile to look towards the target. So let's take a pause from this and look at the projectile here. We have a move speed, we have the target that's following, and then we have a explosion prefab. This spawns on collision with the enemy. Rigid body for movement. We have a move direction here. Attack type, and then we have some variables here that are from the tower script because we also want to know the attack type, the attack range, and then the enemy layer. And the reason we need to know the attack type is because sometimes there is a situation where the projectile is following an enemy, but that enemy dies, and then you get a error because that enemy no longer exists and is trying to follow it. So what I did here is, if the target does not exist, we try to find another one time. Okay, so we use the same methods from the tower script. We have the some methods that will find the closest enemy, the furthest, and the lowest. So that's why we save the attack type to use the same attack type when we try to find the target. And if there is no target, then we destroy it. So we try once to find the target, and if there is no target, we just destroy the projectile. So here you see if there is the target is null, so if it doesn't exist, we try to find another one. And if there is no target, then we destroy the projectile. And else here, so if the target does exist, we just change the move direction to the direction of the make the move direction to move this towards the target. So that direction is the target position minus the transform position. But we normalize this, so meaning we change the length of this to 1. And I want to take a break to show you this in Paint so you can understand what that means. So let's say we have a 2D space, and then we have two objects. We have, let's say this is the target, the red one, I mean the blue one, and then we have the green square, that's the position of our projectile, and we want to reach the blue circle. Okay, so if we do this here, the position of the projectile minus, the position of the target minus the position of the projectile, what we get is this line here. But this is of different length depending on where the target is. So we take this and change it to length 1. So we maintain the direction, but the length is 1. So then we can take this direction and multiply it with the speed. So here we calculate the direction, and then with this here we rotate the projectile towards the targets. Also in fixed update, if there is no target, we try to find another one, and if there is a target, we just update the velocity of the rigid body, so the move direction times the move speed to move the projectile towards the target. On collision, we spawn the well, if it collides with an enemy, we damage that enemy, and then we spawn the explosion, and then we destroy the projectile. And let's look at also the methods to find the closest enemy, furthest enemy, and lowest HP enemy. So for the closest enemy, we use overlap circle. Actually, for all of this, we use overlap circle. So for the closest, we use overlap circle to get all the enemies within the tower range. So this will return an array of colliders. So we specify the position, which is the position of the projectile in this case, the range, and then we target only the enemy. So what we do is we create the minimum distance and we give it a very big value. And then for each collider in that array, first we calculate the distance from the projectile to the enemy here. And if that is smaller than the minimum, we save it. So the minimum becomes this distance. And also we save this the transform of this enemy here. So we repeat this until we get the minimum, and then we return if the minimum distance is this number, meaning this will happen if there are no enemies in range. So in that case, we return null. And else, if we find an enemy, we return the transform of that. For the other ones, for the furthest, it's almost the same, but we have a maximum distance, and we give it a very low value. And then here we check if the distance between the projectile and the enemy is bigger than the maximum. In that case, we save it. And for the lowest HP, we just compare the HP. So we have a initial minimum HP. We give the very big value, and then we compare this with the HP of each enemy. So let's return back to the tower script. So again, when it's time to spawn the projectile, we reset the counter and we select the target depending on the attack type. And if we find a target, if there is a target, we spawn the projectile here, and we save the projectile script because we have to give it a target. So here we set the target, the transform that we found. We set the damage, we set the range, and the attack type. And these two here we set this because like I said, if there is no target, we try one time to find another target here, and we want to use the same attack type. Now, for the UI, when we click, when we change the attack type, we have a next attack type and a previous attack type functions that we assign to those buttons. Um, so, if the attack type +1 is smaller than the maximum or equal, we increase it by 1, and if not, if we exceed the maximum, we return to the first attack type. And then we switch that text depending on the value. Same for the previous. Very similar. Now for the fade of the UI, let's look at that. So we have a coroutine and a function that starts that coroutine. And we have a function, public function, because we use the event trigger. So if you go here to the tower, it has a canvas in workspace with an image. So that way we can use the event trigger to interact with it. So it's just an image with with zero transparency here on top of the tower, and we use the event trigger here. So when we click on it, we enable that fade coroutine. So that's why we have a public function that starts it here. So the coroutine, let's look at the coroutine. So the starting transparency is the transparency that it has right now. And then by default, the end transparency is 0. And then we save the fade in bool. So this one lets us know if it's a fade in or a fade out. So we save it in a variable, and then we change that fade in to the opposite of the value that it is right now. So if it's a fade in, this is the canvas group of those UI elements. We set it active. Actually, not the canvas group, but let me see. Actually, yes, it's an object which the object that has the canvas group. We set it, we enable it, and because it's a fade in, we change the end alpha to 1. If it's a fade out, then here we make sure that we cannot interact with the canvas group. So here we fade it. So we have a for loop that actually counts time. So we start from 0 to 1, and then we add the time difference between frames. So we count time in seconds in that. So obviously this goes from 0 to 1. It happens in 1 second, but we want this to last a specific amount of seconds. So what we do is we divide that time delta time here with fade duration, which is a float. So now this for loop will last the fade duration amount of seconds. And in here we say that the transparency of that canvas group it's matflurp. So the matflurp selects a value between a starting point and an ending point. So we have the starting point, ending point, and this t value at the end represents where exactly between those two we select the value. So, and this t goes from 0 to 1. So 0 represents the starting value, and 1 represents the end value. So with this we go from the starting alpha to the end alpha over time. And yield return means wait one frame. So after we faded the canvas group to the correct transparency, here at the end we make sure that the transparency is exactly the end alpha, because the reason is this t here goes to almost 1 sometimes, and yeah, actually not sometimes, every time it goes to almost 1. So that means this is not exact, it's very close to the end value at the end, but not exactly. So here we make sure it's exactly that value. And then after the fade is finished, depending if it's a fade in or a fade out, we do some stuff. So if it's not a fade in, meaning if it's a fade out, we disable the canvas group object completely. And if it's a fade in, we enable the interaction. So you can click on those buttons and change that tag type. So that's the fade in, fade coroutine. And then the function here, if the coroutine is running here, so we check if the fade coroutine is running, we stop it, and it's also necessary to make that variable null, apparently. And then we start the coroutine again, because sometimes you might click on the tower while the coroutine is running. So first we stop it, and then we start it again in that case. So this is for the tower, and then for the projectile, we discussed this already. The portal. So we have the portal script here. So we have a spawn position, we have an array of possible enemies. In this case, I made just two type of enemies. We have a spawn counter to control the spawn and a spawn speed. We have a minimum spawn speed and a maximum spawn speed because we randomized spawn speed each time we spawn. We change the spawn speed to a random value between these two. So by default, the spawn counter is 0. In update, we count the time in the spawn counter, and if it's time to spawn, we reset the counter. We create, like I said, we create a random spawn speed, and then we spawn a random amount of enemies that, in this case, goes from 1 to 3, because here the last value is not inclusive, so it's from 1 to 3. And then we spawn those, and we have a function to spawn those. So we just create a random index. That way you spawn a random type of enemy, and then here we spawn it. We just spawn it at the spawn position. So that's how this works. Now for the enemy, we have a method to get hit and visually see it with the HP slider. Also on collision with the chest at the end of the path here, they get destroyed. So let's look at that. Oh, and also these enemies have a random move speed when they spawn, and also the animator matches the move speed. The speed of the animator will match the move speed. Okay, so we have a minimum and a maximum speed. So we'll use this to create a random speed value, and then we have the default speed, meaning the speed that matches the animator right now. So the move speed that matches the animator speed right now, that's the default speed. We have a couple of components that we need. We have the rigid body because we move those enemies. We have an animator because we actually, why do we have an yeah, we have an animator because we change the speed of the animation depending on the move speed. We have the canvas here. This is just to set, because this canvas is in world space. You have to assign it a camera. And because we spawn this at runtime, we cannot just do it in the prefab. So we have to do it in the script. We have to assign this canvas in world space a camera. And the slider, that's the HP bar. We have the center transform. That's the center in the image. We have a HP, the HP right now, and the maximum HP, and then this is an effect that we spawn on that. So let's start to get the components that we need. We get the canvas, we assign the camera to the canvas, and we set the sorting order because this canvas now, because it's in world space, it behaves as a sprite now. All the elements in the canvas behave as a sprite. Then we get the slider here by code, give it the minimum value 0. Maximum is the maximum HP, and the value right now it's also the maximum HP. And then we create a random move speed here. We change the velocity on the X to minus that because we move to the left, so minus here. And then we make sure that the animator speed matches the move speed here. So the move animator speed will be the random speed over the maximum move speed here. And then at the start of when the enemy spawns, the HP right now will be the maximum HP, so it spawns with maximum HP. Then we have a function here that damages the enemy. So if the damage does not kill, so if the HP minus the damage is bigger than 0, we just subtract the damage from the HP and update the slider, which is the HP bar. If the damage kills, we spawn the death effect and we destroy this enemy. And on collision with the chest, we spawn the death effect and we destroy the enemy. Let me check if that's everything. Yeah, that's actually everything for the tower defense.